Hi, my name is Jesseline, and I am here talking about probability. So what we're going to do is talk about independent and dependent events of probability. So an independent event is whatever happens to one event has nothing to do with the second event. So the first event does not affect the second event because they are independent. They are unrelated events. So what you do is the probability of A and the probability of B, all you do is find the probability of A and you multiply it by the probability of B, okay? And then you find the probability of that whole event happening. So for example, it says, suppose you roll a dice. What is the probability of rolling a 2 and then rolling an even number? So the first thing we need to do is find the probability of rolling a 2. If you don't know how to find simple probability, watch that video. But rolling a 2, favorable outcomes, there's only one way you can roll a 2. And then out of the total possible outcomes, there's 6 ways you can roll a number. So 1 out of 6. And then the next one is, and then rolling an even number. So an even number, there's 2, 4, 6. So there's 3 possible favorable outcomes, and then out of the possible number of outcomes it's still 6. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to multiply those two probabilities together. 1/6 times 3 6 is 3 over 36, which is 1 over 12. Okay? So 3 out of 36, which is 1 over 12. So the probability of rolling a 2 and then rolling an even number is a 1 out of 12 chance. Now, a dependent is whatever happens in the second event did get affected by the first event. So the first event did affect the second event, and the second event depends on what happens in the first event. So for this formula, you still do the probability of the first event happening times the probability of the second event happening. But remember, the second event is affected by the first event. So for example, there are 6 black pens and 8 blue pens in a jar. If you take a pen without looking and then take another pen without replacing the first one, what is the probability that you will get 2 black pens? So if we didn't replace the first one, that changes the total possible outcomes. But the first one, so there's 6 black pens and 8 blue pens. So there's 14 in total, okay? So we want to know the first event is the probability of, if you take a pen without looking and take another pen without replacing it, what's the probability that you will get 2 black pens? So what's the probability of getting a black pen the first time? Well, 6 out of 14, because there's 6 favorable outcomes out of 14 possible. And then the second event, since we didn't replace it, we have to pretend that we chose a black pen. So now there's not 6 black pens, there's 5 black pens. And then we also, there's not 14 in total because we didn't replace it. There's 13 in total. So then we get to multiply those together. 6/14 times 5/13. So 6/14 times 5/13. What I did is I went ahead and reduced 6/14 down to 3/7. Okay, I went ahead and reduced 6/14 down to 3/7 and multiplied, because that would give me 15 over 91, and that is my answer. 15 over 91 is the probability of drawing 2 black pens. Now we want to decide if these are independent and dependent events. So tossing 2 dice and getting a 6 on both of them. When I tossed the dice the first time and tossed it the second time, did whatever I rolled the first time affect what I rolled the second time? No. Rolling a dice twice is an independent event. They don't affect each other. You have a bag of marbles. You choose one marble out of the bag, look at it, then put it back. You choose another marble. So the first time I chose a marble, I took it out, I put it back, so that didn't affect anything. So if I put it back, it's still starting out as the same the second time around. So those are independent events too. They don't affect each other. You have a basket of socks. You need to find the probability of pulling out a black sock and matching its sock without putting the first sock back. So we don't put the first sock back. So we grab a sock and then we don't put it back. So that changes the possible outcomes. So which means that the second event was affected by the first event, which means that these are dependent events. So thank you for watching about independent and dependent events. Bye.